Hey everybody, Josh Searson of World Alternative Media here, and the fascists that call themselves leftists are at it again with more organized crime. In the always growing bid to control literally everything, a new proposed bill in North Carolina would require people who ride bikes on roads to register their bikes. So let's see. We can add that to the pile of ridiculous proposed legislation in 2019 alongside the failed attempt to ban smoking tobacco in Hawaii, as well as the proposed bill to ban porn unless you pay the government a certain amount a month. This is so incredibly ridiculous. Imagine this. The US government monopolizes Standard Oil. They take out competition like hemp by banning it. It creates problems with pollution that get overblown in many cases, but nonetheless, it creates pollution problems. Instead of plastics being made out of natural, far more efficient materials, they're made out of petroleum. Eventually, after imprisoning millions for using black market alternative methods to do all the things petroleum products are used for, the government ends the ban while banning plastic straws. Never mind free market competition, the straws are the problem, obviously. They push things like Agenda 21 and now Agenda 2030, and socialist Democrats push things like the New Green Deal, which is economically illiterate and pushes to ban gas-powered cars by 2030. With carbon taxes in Canada, people are pushed out of rural communities and into tiny apartments in big cities. People are shunned in many places for driving gas-guzzling vehicles, and people are pressured by cost and social constructs to downsize. Many are pushed to simply use public transportation or ride a bike. They have bike rentals all over major cities. It's convenient, so why not? Then they come down on everyone with regulations and registrations. And I quote, "Show me the papers," their henchmen yell. This is essentially the path we've gone down, and it's much worse, but I'm not going to spend an entire day explaining it. Let's look at this crazy article from abc11.com. Proposed bill would require bikes driven on North Carolina roads to be registered. And as the article goes into, when the sun is out and temperatures are mild, we see more cyclists out on the streets of Raleigh. Bike shop manager Matt McGrain is among the two-wheel commuters making the most of a beautiful day. And I quote, "Yeah, it's been great," he said. "It finally stopped raining, and I do like the commute. Just kind of wakes you up, gets you in there, a little bit more energy." Freedom is very important to McGrain as he rolls along his morning journey. Like you said, just jumping on your bike. I'm going to work soon. I've got an hour just seeing the town. So he's interested in learning more about a bill sponsored by State Representative Jeffrey Elmore of Wilkes County. Yeah, freedom is so important to him that he thinks an organized crime racket should tell people riding bikes on the street that they must have papers with the racket itself if they wish to keep riding their bikes. Not to mention, most places have already forced cyclists to ride on the streets and not on the sidewalks, which is a headache and a half as a driver. But anyways, back to the article. If approved by the North Carolina General Assembly, it would require cyclists 16 and older to register their bikes and pay an annual fee of $10 for each bike used on public streets and highways. McGrain was skeptical at first. I'm not sure how registering bikes on a personal level would go over, especially with a fee attached to it. Unlike car drivers, cyclists would not be required to apply for a certificate of title. The fees paid would be used by the North Carolina Department of Transportation for bike safety projects, including grants to buy helmets for young cyclists. Ah, how sweet. Extortion for helmets. If it goes back to cycling safety, bike lanes, that could be a wonderful thing, said McGrain after reading part of the draft bill. It stated that when the $10 fee is paid, cyclists would get registration cards and plates to display on the rear of their bikes. I think $10 is reasonable, cyclist Shannon Benedetto said. It's something I'd be willing to pay. Failure to register a bike would mean a fine of $25. If approved, the fee policy would be effective December 1st, 2019 with a 6-month grace period. During that time, cyclists would receive warnings from authorities if they're stopped for registration checks and can't provide proof of compliance. Proof of compliance? That doesn't sound authoritarian at all. Thanks, George Orwell. And yeah, I'm sure no police stops of people with unregistered bikes will go wrong at all. North Carolina totally doesn't have a police brutality problem. Sarcasm. It's amazing how shell-shocked and indoctrinated people have become, just accepting government as their lord and savior. This Shannon woman says $10 is reasonable and that she'd be willing to pay it. First of all, no, extortion is not reasonable, and that's what it is, extortion. Second of all, you're willing to pay it? You don't have a choice. Sit down and shut up, slave. If you want to give someone your money for teaching kids safety, donate some money. Surely you'd have nothing against it. It must be a great idea if you have to be extorted to pay for it. People, good ideas do not require force. Stop supporting this absolute nonsense. It's all an incremental frog boil of collectivism, and it does not make you more free. It chips away at your freedoms one by one until one day you wake up and you have none left. You've willingly and stupidly handed the state everything you have for the sake of temporary security and things that sound cute and nice, like helmets and probably some Paw Patrol safety course that's highly ineffective and annoying. It's amazing I have to tell people this stuff. They aren't providing you anything, and for likely 1/40th of the price, you can pay for safety education yourself. And bike lanes, sure, that can be done voluntarily as well. But unfortunately, if you try to privately fund these things, in most cases, you get regulated to death or completely shut down by the state, like the pothole vigilantes that fill in potholes by their own free will and are forced to dig the asphalt out of the potholes because it's not government mandated. So much for the virtue signaling of the state. So much bureaucratic nonsense in this legislation. Your life does not need to be centralized by other people. Stop being a slave, rule yourself, be responsible for yourself, educate your children, and quit bending over so you can work your butt off day in and day out only for the state to steal more than half of your money. And what do? You thank them and come up with more nonsense for them to waste your money on, all while they inflate the price of living heavily with vast amounts of currency printing. My God, why does this even need to be said? Anyways, I'll talk to you all later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdsson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here, OM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so heavily demonetized and censored by YouTube as these guys come in and flag all of our content as hate speech. The shadow banning is getting really bad, guys. Also, check our Bitcoin address right here on the screen or in the description below. We really appreciate it. And of course, check us out at the Red Pill Expo 2019. Of course, the great G. Edward Griffin and so many other incredible speakers will be there. Our link for that is below as well. And we cannot forget Mike Maloney's goldsilver.com, which you can also find in the description. One of the greatest market and monetary historians out there. We really encourage everyone to check that out. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdsson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.